I'm gonna guess in about five.
Says we're live now.
Is okay. Well, I on my end it says we're setting up. So welcome to the wealth debate number 18. Wow,
18.
18 of these buddies. I can't believe we could even get through one, let alone 18 of them.
18. That's
And
quite a bit.
so, welcome to everybody. If you are on, and I'm trying to get to the chat box here, it takes a second. I got multiple computers going on. And so, if you are live and watching in any way, shape, or form, if you could say hello, I would greatly appreciate that. I try to respond to everybody who says hello on the Wealth Debate. And so, also, maybe if you don't think I remember you, maybe where you're from. I usually remember where most people are from, amazingly enough. So, if you're out there in Facebook world or Instagram or wherever we're being shot live on this, let us know. I'd love to say hello. Sam, what are you up to tonight, buddy?
Well, in Ontario, we are in lockdown mode, and we moved our March break, spring break. We call it March break, but spring break that usually is in March was moved to April this week, and not a day into that March break, there was an announcement that there might be a delay of the kids coming back to school. They really didn't want to shut down the schools. They talked about it. Some districts wanted to close and did, but they were going to open up, the rest of the boards, and the schools were going to be open in Ontario. And then we got our the belief that they were going to shut it down for 2 weeks after this week because of COVID. And then the government came out and said, Ontario came out and said, we're going to close down indefinitely. And we received an email today to inform the parents that the students will be going online coming in the new week for the foreseeable future. So, all that being said, COVID marches on in Ontario and in Canada. The corridor by the university is, I was told today, is the worst in Canada, which is the University of Western Ontario, great university. But I mean, they're kids and they're in dorms and stuff, and they're still doing their thing and, having get-togethers. So it's very difficult to control and restrict that kind of interaction. So unfortunately, it's one of the worst, highest rates of COVID. I mean, what does that all mean? Again, you look at the United States. The United States is accepting the fate of, the drawbacks of having an open economy and open interactions. They seem to be accepting the idea that there's going to be deaths. But this is, I think, again, something we talked about this, Pip. The culture there is very much about the individual and protecting the individual's rights and freedoms to pursue, even risk, and to impede that freedom is far worse than the disease, right? So the cure for an American, taking away their freedoms is worse than the safety that those freedoms being taken away might provide. And you might think that's crazy. I believe in that myself. I think it's a slippery slope when governments take away freedoms, and I think that you have to be very careful on what you're willing to give up. That being said, you don't want to be reckless, obviously, and you don't want to put your family at risk and certain segments of the population. But ultimately, this environment here, I'm hearing from a lot of people, and I can speak for myself, is exhausting. It's exhausting being cocooned and being restricted from where you go. And, we were talking today with some friends. They think handshaking is dead. They think handshakes never come back. And I don't know if I believe that, but we're social animals, and we definitely are not ready, I don't think, as a group or a society, or this generation or the next, or even the one after, to go into a strictly cocooning, environment. Excuse me, environment. So it's exhausting. It's tough. It's tough living in this environment, and I hope soon, very soon, this gets lifted, because it's creating some, I think, some serious social challenges and issues for people. So I hope they get rid of it. Get rid of it. I hope they learn how to manage this better. Obviously, we heard about Johnson and Johnson's little mishap. Some blood clots were discovered. Me and Pip were also talking about this. Pip mentioned that this is after millions and millions of doses, which Johnson & Johnson's makes the smallest portion, I believe, of all the other vaccine producers. So they weren't a huge part of it, but still that accounts for surely hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of vaccinated individuals from their particular vaccine. I don't know what the exact number is. And they had, I think, recorded, Pip, it was 6 blood clots, right? From young ladies under the age of 50.
Anytime you look at statistics, what's the old saying is 75% of statistics are made up on the spot or something like that. I mean, whatever.
75% of statistics are right.
87.4% of the statistics are made up, on the spot. Or no. What I've read.
Just go to iWrite.com and you're good.
What I read most recently was there was 6, well, I believe, deaths from blood clots.
Yes.
Ages were 18 to 48 ladies.
Which is odd.
And it was a kind of a weird kind of blood clot, because I've had blood clots. So talk to a guy who's had them. I've had the DVTs in my legs. But these are the ones that go into the brain and kill you. And so it's obviously not a good thing at all. Yeah. And I remember when I'll talk about, since we're talking about blood clots, then I'm going to talk about the numbers in a second. My mom had, what we found out in my house is it's a hereditary, or my family. My mom had blood clots. I've got 4 out of 6 of us siblings have all had blood clots. So it's definitely something going on in our life.
Wow.
And I'll never forget the doctor asking me, she said, have you been on an airplane? Have you been in a car for a long period of time? Yada, yada, yada. And I said, no, actually it's been 3 weeks. It's the last time I was on an airplane. And she said, well, then I don't know why you got it. That's the kind of thing. And, but I obviously, I used to get on airplanes on a regular basis, that kind of thing. But the point being is, whatever reason, the Stellick family, we're predisposed to have blood clots. Anyway, the point I want to make on that is I didn't know how serious they were. They were doing scans on me and all this kind of stuff. And I guess they call blood clots the widowmaker. Did not know that. Yeah, I looked, I'm the same way, Sam, because I remember getting up. My wife and I were actually in a hotel in Lincoln, Nebraska, watching with the kids, doing some stuff with the kids. And I got up one morning, it was a Saturday morning, and she's like, hey, Pip, or I said, hey, Jen, my back of my leg is hurting. She goes, what's wrong? I said, I don't know. She said, did you sprain something? Did you pull muscle? And I said, nah. And why I said this, I said, I think it was probably a blood clot. And I was making a joke. Didn't know that making that joke wasn't the smartest thing to do, because what did my wife do immediately? She's online for the next 2 hours researching my blood clot stuff.
Sure, WebMD.
And she's like, WebMD, whatever. I don't even know what's going on. And that's just her mentality.
Right.
But anyway, she's like, we need to get you to the hospital. I'm like, oh, it's a Saturday afternoon, no big deal, yada, yada, yada. So we went through the day Saturday, went through the day Sunday. I got home Sunday night. And I would told my wife, I said, you remember my sister and my brother all had blood clots? She goes, oh yeah, I forgot all about that. So she calls my sister, and immediately at 10:30 on a Sunday night, my sister and my wife are like, you need to get to the hospital immediately. I'm like, it didn't even hurt much. No, you need to get there immediately. I said, I'll go first thing in the morning. So, and Sam's going, this is quite the story. I've always got stories about stuff.
Wow.
And so I go to the hospital, I go to the doctor's office on Monday morning. And she does she looks at me and she says, I'm going to send you in for a scan. And I said, well, I'm supposed to be in Australia on a plane to Australia tomorrow. I said, can I still go tomorrow to Australia? She says, I don't know. And she said, let's see what the scan says. And I said, well, did you think it's a clot? She says, I'm thinking it with your family history and the symptoms you're telling me and yada, 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 it's probably a clot. I said, okay. I said, if it's a small clot, can I go to Australia tomorrow? She says, let's talk about it. So me and Mr. Smart Aleck, I'm like bargaining with my doctor. She's like, I go, so let's say that the clot is the size of Rhode Island. Can I go to Australia tomorrow? She's like, we'll talk after I see the scan. So I immediately go to this other facility to get this scan. and my blood clot. And Sam's going, this is way more information than you need, but this is obviously.
No, this is a good story.
It's a great story. And we're going to be talking about storytelling as we come through the weekend with some other stuff that we're doing on a mastermind. Anyway, and so it's all about being able to tell a good story. And so I get into there and I'm wearing like track pants and some boxer shorts. And now they're going, wait, this is way too much information. And so the lady says, you need to take off your track pants. You got boxers on underneath. That's good. I said, sure, no problem. So my wife is sitting in the scan room with me. This lady has this thing. And if you've ever had a baby and they do the ultrasound to determine if the baby's heart's beating and stuff, I think it's called an ultrasound or a sonogram, whichever it's called, doesn't matter. I think it's ultrasound is what it is. They rub this jelly on the tummy of the mama, and they just to see if the baby's heart's beating, all that kind of stuff, or they can tell sex of the baby or if you have twins or all that good stuff. Anyway, this is also the technology they use to determine if you have blood clots. So remember, I've got symptoms in my back of my left calf. That's all I'm saying. And so the lady says, okay, we're going to start up kind of right at the very top of your leg. I said, well, I only have pain at the bottom of my leg. She said, no, we're going to start up here. And so she starts to run her little tool right up, just below my waist, basically. And she doesn't even go an inch or two down. And she's like, oh, there's a blood clot. And she literally goes all the way down my leg. And she said, your leg is completely full of blood clots. And she has a scan that she immediately emails over to my doctor. And so my doctor gets me on the phone at the other office there. And she said, your blood clot is not the size of Rhode Island. It's the size of Rhode Island, Texas, Oklahoma, maybe a little more. And she said, you're not going to Australia tomorrow. She said, in fact, she says, you got two choices. She says, your wife can drive you to the hospital, but you can't, you got to do one of two things. You can go home and get a change of clothes if you want to, but you can't go up and down any stairs. Can't even do that. She says, if you don't obey what I'm saying, and your wife, I know, will tell you what to do. She said, I'm going to get a rescue squad and send you to the hospital. That's how serious this is. I didn't know that. And as I'm talking to some of the ladies about what I have, they're like, well, so-and-so came in 3 months ago with a situation like this and never went home. And they weren't trying to scare me. They were just trying to tell me how serious blood clots were. So I hear the term blood clot now, and this is why we have a heightened awareness of anything. You just remember, and we can take it to the nth degree. If you've ever gotten a speeding ticket, your radar for cops and police officers for the police officers for the next foreseeable future is a lot higher than if you haven't gotten a speeding ticket in 20 years. It's that constant awareness. I always make the joke when I teach classes. I'm like, have you ever bought a car and you thought you had a unique car, and as soon as you drive your car off the lot, you thought you had a unique car with a unique color. As soon as you drive it off the lot, what do you see? You see everybody else has the same kind of car. Like, where do those cars come from? Why didn't you see those before you bought the car? Because our conscious wasn't looking for that. So when I heard that somebody talking about Johnson & Johnson and blood clots, my ears perk up immediately with blood clots because I've been there, done that. It is very serious. I've had no issues. I'm going to knock on wood because of that. I do take medicine for them on a regular basis, but I've had family members that have had them. I had an aunt that died of a blood clot, an aneurysm in her head at the age of 49 or 50. So not much younger than me right now when I actually got them. And so law of attraction, somebody says, I haven't even had a chance to do any of the chats here. I appreciate all the comments in there, but they are definitely they're not a laughing matter. So I see why people are very scared of it. Now, I think what we have to do, I'm going to go back to Sam's issue with what's going on in Ontario versus what's going on in the US. To me, and I know if you have a blood clot, I know if death is part of it, it's not a math equation. But technically, yes, it is a math equation. It really is. If we looked at the risk versus reward on things, we'd never drive a car again. We'd fly everywhere if we looked at risk reward. And so we have to understand that mentality. And I think right now what's going on in the US, they're looking at risk reward. Is there a risk for this? Yes, there is. What's the risk versus the reward? And the reward is how we have more open economy. The reward is we have more choices, whereas in Canada, they've kind of shut that down. A little different mentality by the government, a little bit different mentality by the people, I think, accepting it a little bit more. I mean, we could look at New Zealand. New Zealand was shut down for literally nothing for months, and they kept everybody out too. So every economy, every country has a different choice to make. The Johnson & Johnson thing, I think they're being overly cautious because what I read is 6 cases out of 7 million plus doses. Way less doses than some of the other, was it Moderna? And I can't remember all the other, there's one or two other ones. And so, yeah, we can sit here and say that getting a vaccine has a risk of a blood clot. And you can say that getting COVID, there is a certain risk in your behavior and all this other stuff attributes to that. But what really attributes, I think, more to COVID from what we're seeing is lack of activity and being in bad shape and being way overweight and all those things. Asthmatic, I mean, obviously, one of my kids is asthmatic. You can't help being asthmatic, but all those pre-existing conditions totally change that. So I think what we need to talk about, Sam, is not COVID. We need to talk about how does this affect the economy? Because I literally was thinking today, I remember the 2008 real estate market crash. Was it a little bit self-induced with funny money? Yeah, I think so. And I don't think anybody would argue that. The whole GFC was induced by that. But one of the things that I think is very different in this crash, or what I presume to be the next correction, is that from 2008 to 2010, we'll say, especially in the United States, not as much in Canada, but definitely in the United States, we saw price declines in a lot of markets. Whereas what have we seen over the last 12 months? Even though we've seen huge unemployment, we've seen huge price increases. We see lumber prices going up. We see a lot of other different signs. And so I'm still going to go back to having property, whether we had a pandemic, having property, whether we have a recession, is still a much better place for your money, or to house debt, as Sam and I like to talk about, anything else, because it allows us to have leverage. And so with that being said, I'm still going to come back to that whole mentality is property gives us the ability to use debt, to use leverage, and to really create a lot more. And so I got asked this question last night, velocity of money. And so with that, we're able to do that with property. Sam's going, this is the least I've ever talked on a wealth debate.
Yeah, you do it. This is great. This is great.
But it's a story, and everybody has stories. And I got a lot of people saying this. Well, actually, Wendy, I was on a flight a week and a half later after I was in the hospital for 2 days.
Wow.
And I was on a flight a week later. And my doctor, I was 48 years old at the time, 49, right in that area. So I'm 53 now. So it's 4 or 5 years ago. And my doctor made the comment. She said, well, you can either let this, and this is my opinion of life. I can give you a COVID story here in just a minute as well. My opinion of life is I'm going to live it. Do I have to take risk in order to live it? Every time you breathe, every time you drink, every time you get in your car, every time you do certain things. Heck, when you eat pizza, there's a risk there because it could probably cause a heart attack. But I like pizza, Sam. I like nachos. I like wings. You and I, we like that right there was a typical dinner for Sam and I on occasion.
That's right. That's right.
And so anyway, the point being is you take risk in everything that you do. And my doctor said to me, she said, I can't, you're an adult. I can't tell you what decisions to make. She said, here's some things to avoid. Take the blood thinners that you're supposed to take. But I can't tell you not to live your life. If your life is getting on a plane and going to New Zealand or Australia, what do you just need to do? You got to wear what do they call them? Compression socks or stockings, whatever they are. Got to wear those. You got to get up and move. You just got to be aware of what you're doing. And then obviously my wife will laugh every time I say this. You get plenty of fluids, keep things moving and stuff. So I haven't had any issues since. I do find that if I am inactive for any period of time, I do see swelling in my left leg, but that's about it. They did do a procedure to blow up the clots, so that's good. But I mean, I see with my family situation, I'm going to have the propensity to have them no matter what, but that is not going to keep me from living my life. I'm going to keep living. And I hope you guys you don't read something, tomorrow or the next day that something happened, but I'm going to keep living. And so the same thing happened when COVID started a year ago. So I was in Boston, Massachusetts. So here we go. Another story. Sam's going, I've got nothing to talk about. I actually thought, what are we going to talk about tonight? I was in Boston, Massachusetts. I left on a Thursday and things look pretty normal. This is like the March 13th or 14th. I'd have to go back and look at my calendar. The airport was pretty full. My flight was full on the way to Boston from Kansas City. On Sunday night, when we came back home, there were, I believe, 8 people on my flight, and that was it. The airport was literally a ghost town. Nothing was open. it looked like a different world. It looked like a bomb had gone off. So by the time I got home, the world had changed. So within 4 days, the world had shut down in many instances. The NBA shut down, and we could go through a whole list of things that shut down, churches and everything else. And so I was asked by the people that I contracted at the time, Legacy Elite, if I would be interested in flying to Florida over the next 2 weeks to do some online classes, because at the time that's where they had all the recording opportunities for, or the recording abilities, and that was what they asked me to do. And I know my wife and I looked at each other and we said, you know what, we can let it control our lives, or we can choose to make actions and live responsibly, don't get me wrong. And so I went down and I said, you know what, I'm on this earth for a purpose, and my purpose isn't to sit in my house. My purpose is to do certain things. Now, obviously, we're able to sit in a house and deliver material to people all over the world, which is kind of cool. And so I really believe that, you know, everything kind of happens for a reason. But yeah, that's why I like property. It doesn't, I mean, you still need a place to, what does Steve call it, beds and heads? You need a place to rest your head no matter what's going on in the world, whether it's a pandemic, whether it's a global financial crisis, or anything else. It doesn't matter. And so, and Bob Prout, great seeing you on here, my friend. He's basically, he's a builder, real estate investor. And he's saying, and I got to get my glasses on to read this. I think he says 400% on plywood alone. And so I don't care if the price of lumber, I shouldn't say I don't care. I can't control if the price of lumber goes up 400%. Neither can Bob Prout, neither can any other builder. Is there still a demand for those properties? Is there still demand for properties to be built? And the answer is actually, yes, there is. And so if there's a demand, there's always going to be people to fill that demand. Now, costs and prices might go up based on supplies and things such as that, or other factors. But the point being it's so important to have, you know, an answer for those things that happen out there. So there's a COVID story, a blood clot story, and they're worried, Sam, because you're not laughing. Usually by this time of the show, you're laughing, you're pounding on your table, and we can hear it on your microphone.
No, I'm enjoying this story. I'm reflecting on some of the stuff that you're saying, and I come to the conclusion that Americans' culture is one of quality versus quantity. And in Canada, we're more quantity versus quality. So living longer is better than living well, right? And in the United States, it's living well is better than living long. You know, I think that's the big distinction between the cultures of the United States and many other countries around the world. So quantity is outweighs quality. And I say, I mean, obviously there has to be a balance somewhere, but I probably lean to quality versus quantity in life. Now, there's an argument on the other side. The longer you live, you figure you got the more opportunity to live and enjoy quality. The dilemma is, if you do all the things you have to do to live to be 100, you won't want to live to be 100. That's the joke, right? I mean, and not to say don't take care of yourself or be healthy. It's if you're toil, it's you know, there's frustration and challenges to live the life you're living to achieve quality or quantity. One might argue that it's not worth it. And I think and deeply believe that people wake up in the morning for their future. And if a person has no future, they will not want to wake up in the morning. So we either block things out, and this really comes back to, as an example, one aspect is money. You either ignore money completely and just keep living your life and ignoring it, and a deep seated anxiety grows inside you, and a disdain for money, and it's just disdain for wealth, and an unfair sense of the world. And I speak from experience. As a young man, I was very much anti-capitalist and thought that wealthy people did things wrong. That's how they became wealthy. I did believe that the rich got rich from the poor, which is just the most ridiculous thing. When I say that, I can't believe it took me so long to realize how ridiculous that statement is. The rich get richer and the poor get poor, as though the rich are getting rich from the poor. What a terrible business plan. How are you going to get rich from poor people? So I think that because I grew up and there were some struggles growing up financially, that there was just a bad taste in my mouth about money. So here's the dilemma that I dealt with for many years: is how do you become wealthy if you think money's bad or wealthy people are bad? How are you going to become wealthy? How are you going to become financially independent? How are you going to become significant in many different ways? One including financially, because there's some significance that can be achieved definitely through wealth. How can I have all that if I think that money's bad, or having money's bad, or being wealthy is bad? It's not going to happen. It's going to be extremely difficult to retain, contain, and grow money, because each time you get large sums of money, you get rid of it as quickly as possible because it represents negativity. So when we talk about mindset, we often talk about the mindset of wealth, how important it is to reevaluate how we see money, to retell the story of wealth. And this is why the 5 laws, 6 we'll call them now, right? Plus 1. The 6 laws of money are so important to being able to engage with money and not feel diminished, or what was the word we learned today, Pip?
Deprecating.
Deprecated.
Be careful how you say that. It could be something different. Just saying.
That's right. So you don't want to be deprecated.
Well, I got to tell a story now because everybody's wondering where the word came from. So every time, and I don't know if any of you guys, do much with Facebook Live or Zoom or all this stuff. Well, first thing you have to understand is my technology ability could fit basically in their pinky fingernail, and we would probably have a lot of room left over. That's how much technology and knowledge I have here. Thank God my wife helps me out, or else there's no way I'd be able to figure this stuff out. And so Facebook likes to change things, and they don't keep things the same. And so one way that you do a Zoom to Facebook live video, we figured that out, and it took us a while to get it figured out so we could have multiple people on here. And this was about whenever we started this, Sam, I don't know, 18 weeks ago, we'll say now, 19 weeks ago, because we missed one because we just forgot it was a Wednesday, apparently. Like those come every week. We should know that there's a Wednesday every week. Anyway, the point being is we figured out how to do it. And we were doing pretty good. Then all of a sudden, Facebook just changed the way they did stuff. And this happened about, I'm going to say 4 or 5 weeks ago. So now I'm just getting the habit of doing that, even though I still try to figure out when it says I'm going to be live and not, and all that kind of stuff. Well, tonight I get ready to go live, and it says, and I can't remember exactly what it says. I should have taken a screenshot of it, but it said that the video will be deprecating for future use, and then again,
Don't forget the API.
The VPI, I don't know what it was. Doesn't even matter. The VIP, the VPI, the something was 17 was going to be changing for future use. And I'm thinking, I don't even know what they're talking about. Nonetheless, whatever change has been made, we were able to go through it, and it's going to be different next time. But yeah, we learned the word deprecating. In fact, I said to Sam, I said, I don't even think I've ever heard the word deprecating. It sounds like a different word that means something different, that sounds bad, that we don't need to talk about tonight. But I'm like, deprecating, what does it mean? And it really means the same as depreciation to a certain extent. Is that right, Sam? You're muted now.
We defined it. Yeah, we actually, your wife, wise woman that she is, looked it up, and it was wear and tear, devaluing. As an example, wear and tear of a property, devaluing the value of it. So it is associated with devaluation. Talked about currencies, right? Devaluing one currency devaluing over another. What was the word again? What was it called?
Deprecating.
Just doesn't sound right. It just doesn't. I'm scared to say it because, you know, it just might not come out the way you think it's going to come out. And I got away with it a few times. So I'm pretty proud of myself, but I think I'll stay on the side of not saying that word. So anyways, we didn't know the word, which was good. We recognized we didn't use it. So we defined it before we started using it. You can see we still struggle with that. So lesson here is don't say words that you don't understand. And if you don't understand something, say you don't understand it. Instead of doing, which we've all done in the past, nodding and in your head going, eventually I'll understand the context that they're using and what this word means. So I'll just keep nodding, pretending I understand what this person's saying, but I have no idea what that word they just said means. And they keep using it. So you know, there's a lesson every time. Every Wednesday there's going to be a lesson.
The word of the day is deprecating.
Yes. And at some point we'll get a board where we can spell things and spell words, and we can do like Sesame Street, you know, throw in some vowels and a guy in a bird suit. I mean, we got a show. I mean.
Somebody said it's self-deprecating. Self-deprecating humor is what I tend to use.
Which I think makes sense compared to the, you know, what we picked up. You know what? I think that unless you kids give us something to talk about, you're gonna get a lot of this tonight, because it feels like that kind of mood. I'm telling you, this COVID stuff is it's getting to you mentally, at least for us in Ontario, at least for me. I mean, and I'm out, and I go out. My business takes me out, and I see people because of the business I'm in. And I'm telling you, for me, it's still not enough. I want to be able to engage and interact. I want to be able to fly again, you know, freely, and not worry about 14 days of quarantine. I want to be able to see an economy again. I want to be able to see that kind of excitement and growth and opportunity that comes with the majority of people participating in the growth and the GDP and the expansion of the economy. There's something to be said about more people working and more people spending and more people enjoying.
Well, I think one of the things you said, I don't think you said that, meaning it was your opinion, but you heard somebody else say it, that handshakes will go away.
Yes, yes.
Totally disagree with that.
Yeah, sure.
Because we have a culture. I mean, there are people that, now there will be people when you put your hand out that move away from you.
Sure.
There will be people that don't put their hand out. But the average person, I don't care what the situation is, will put their hand back out because we are conditioned.
We do it a long time.
This is why it hurts so bad. This is why it's so uncomfortable to have those stay-at-home orders, because we're not conditioned for that. We're conditioned to be out. We're conditioned to be talking to people. I mean, fist bumps. Yeah, maybe somebody said fist bumps. There's people who've been doing fist bumps for a long time, and there's nothing wrong with that. There'll be people that don't shake your hand, and that's okay too. I have been at multiple functions. I was in one in September that in Dallas, there were 60 people in a hotel ballroom. 95% of the people shook my hand. I was at a hotel ballroom in Florida back in January. Everybody shook my hand I consciously did not put my hand out first. And so I think what's going to happen, there will be people that don't do that. But I think what we're going to see, especially in these first waves, because Sam, I know I told you this a little bit earlier. We booked our first hotel room June 24th through the 26th in Dallas, Texas. If you want to see our first event, live 3-day training in person, it's going to be Dallas, Texas. I'll send you the hotel as soon as you want it. If you want it, Marriott Hotel, right by the DFW airport. So yeah,
live
in person. People in the seats. Now, there will be people, and I know I'm not a guy that likes to cause conflict. There will be people that think I am being, what's the word I want to use? Irresponsible by saying this. I'm not being irresponsible. I have never held a gun to anybody's head for anything. Don't even own a gun. I'm an American. I'm not a guy with a gun. I don't need a gun because every one of my neighbors has one. So there's plenty in the neighborhood. We're good to go. The point I'm trying to say is that those people that were in that hotel back in September, those people that were in that hotel in January in Florida, the people that are going to be at the hotel in Dallas are not the people that are worried. Right or wrong, you can agree or disagree with them. You can think they're irresponsible. They're not the people that have a problem with being in crowds. So what is the first thing they're going to do when they say hello to me? Pip, how you doing? Great to meet you. It's going to happen. I had people in Florida say, are you okay? I do hugs. Are you okay with the hug? And I'm not a hugger. I'll be the first guy to tell you. And people knew this way before COVID. I wasn't a hugger. That's just not who I am. But if somebody wants to give me a hug, I reciprocate. I had people in Florida giving me hugs at the height. And I'm talking, and I'm not bragging about this. Please don't think I'm bragging about this. I'm just trying to tell you there's a mindset that people have. And the people that are scared of handshakes, the people that are scared of crowds aren't going to be in them. And that's okay. And they have every right. And here's the cool part about it. If you want to stay at home and shelter in place and not go anywhere, you can stay there and you can get everything delivered. You never have to leave if that's what you want to do. You can get your entertainment, your food, your medicines. You never have to leave your house. And I think we should feel blessed because of that. Because go back to the last pandemic in 1918. I don't think there was anything called Uber Eats. I'm pretty sure there wasn't. Do you think, Sam, whether in 1918 there was Uber Eats?
I don't think they called it Uber Eats. I think it had a different name.
And so the question, somebody said, will you be in Dallas, Sam? Yes, he will be in Dallas.
Yes, I will.
So we've already made that.
That's happening, and I don't care.
So
what I have to do when I come back, I am 110%. I need to be there. I want to be there. I miss hanging out with this young man and our two other business partners, and I miss the wings and the nachos, and I miss the experience of being around other people, and there is something to be said about live. There's something to be right now when we're doing these things. I could speak for myself, and I know Pip feels similar because we've talked about this. I imagine you out there looking back at me right now. I imagine that there's some sort of energy transfer that's happening, just one I'm not accustomed to. I've been on a stage, I've been in front of people, I've taught, I've watched this young man do it too, in large, huge crowds, and there's just something you cannot duplicate online with being live. There's something special about it, and the energy transfer between you and your audience and you and your students and your people, it's like nothing I've ever felt in my life before. So I deeply look forward to it, excited about it, and it's going to be an exciting time. So if you do get the chance, that'd be wonderful. If not, we'll get you next time.
I never have seen Sam with this low of energy before. And it's not low energy. You can just tell it's depressing. And so the point I want to make about this, and we're going to keep it a short one tonight. We originally started these whole wealth debates at 45 minutes, and they sometimes
30. There's only 30 minutes.
30 minutes. And then I said, there's no way Sam can say hello in 30 minutes, but so we're going to keep a short one tonight. But the point I want to make about this, and I have very strong opinions about certain things, is that, when we look at this, and Sam makes a great point about you can't replicate the live. If you've ever been to a concert, if you've ever been to a football, hockey, a basketball, whatever type of sport you might like, if you've ever been to a live play, a live musical, if some of you guys like opera, never been to an opera,
Broadway.
Have a desire. It's totally different than hearing it or watching it on a screen. You just can't replicate that. And I mean, there are so many things you can't replicate. And so we are so chomping at the bit to be able to get back in front of people. I mean, and I know some people are thinking, well, the event in Dallas, that's interesting that you're doing that. Well, we're going to be doing something in Florida on July 16th with 3,000 to 5,000 people. So that's a whole nother level.
Yes.
And so, at the end of the day, the people that want to be there will be. The people that don't, it's a free country. They don't have to be. And, we want to make sure that we're doing things responsibly, but we're also going to make sure that we keep moving, because that's what life is all about, is keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep things going. I'm trying to read comments as I do here. Keep things going and moving. And so that's why we want to continue to do things, because at the end of the day, it's about helping other people out. And we know that whether you shake a hand, you fist bump, or you just say hello in person and you say, hey, I'm here to help you out. You put you put in the effort, we'll bring the support. You're going to be all right. So Sam, anything else you want to add for tonight? Because we're going to
just, thanks for continuing to join us on these Wednesday meetings. We're going to continue to do them, really, the Wednesday show. I'm going to stick with that. And we'll continue to talk about money and wealth. But again, if there's topics that you want to talk about, some days it just feels like there's less to talk about when it comes to money, considering the stuff we've already talked about. If there's something that you'd like us to review, please let us know. We really are driven by being able to offer something of value to you. So please, if you do know something you want to talk about, or an area that we've talked about and you'd like us to review, let us know. We'll be happy to do that and continue to do these because we love them and enjoy them.
I'm going to ask, and I don't know if she's still on here. There's a young lady, Emily, and I'm not sure if I say your last name right, Bartram. And I believe I met you, and man, if I'm wrong on this, you can sure shout me out, in Vancouver. And I haven't seen you on here before, and you might have seen some of the shows, but you may have not, I can't even talk. You may have not made any comments before, and you may not be on here any longer, meaning tonight. And I know there's a big delay in when you send something on the chat versus when we say something, there's a 20 to 30 second delay. But Emily, love to have you on here. That's a new face tonight. We see Rob, the regulars, love to see you. We want to see you guys even more. Bob Prout, great to see you tonight. Michelle, just from Wichita, Kansas. That's awesome. Wichita. Emily, correct me if I'm wrong, that I met you at a Rich Dad thing back in Vancouver years ago. And if you haven't said anything by now, maybe you're not on there. James, all the way from New York City area. I love it. So tonight was, instead of Sam ranting, it was Pip ranting. There's no doubt about it. So with that being said, guys, we'll see you same time next week, same bat channel, same bat time. The Wealth Debate number 19.
19.
We're almost out of the teens, Sam. You're still a teenager, though. So you still got some room to grow. So the other thing that's always interesting for me is to try to get this thing shut off so that I'm not continuing on Facebook for like 10 minutes after we still quit talking.
That's why I shut the hood. There you go.
We will see you guys next time on the Wealth Debate. You guys have a great day. Alan Lee, good to see you. Carrie Hammer, good to see you as well. We will see you guys again next week on the Wealth Debate.